Darkwood is a definitive top-down survival horror, absolutely steeped in dark mystery, disturbing visuals, and a foreboding soundtrack. Featuring well-balanced combat and classic inventory management, for the most part it consists of tense exploration driven forward by the slow unveiling of a disturbing and supernatural story. Sounds good on paper, but it's still a top-down GTA clone swimming in a sea of AAA blockbusters. So, is it worth playing? A suitably abstract prologue lets you know that there is a plague ravaging the land and you're stuck in the middle of it, life endangered and unable to return to the outside world. You start in this small house surrounded by items and instruments that suggest you're a doctor who's just about surviving. The tone of the game is pretty much cemented within seconds of walking outside, where your dying dog pulls on your heartstrings as your character's thoughts oblige you to put it out of its misery. Shortly beyond this, a fallen speed sign and overgrown road might ignite a small flame of hope as you realise that this area was once inhabited and surely not beyond the scope of outside rescue. But this is quickly expunged when you come to terms with the extent of the woods and how much infrastructure has become infested. You then find a man in a wide-brimmed hat with a key and quickly show your true colours when you try to convince him to tell you how to escape. Shortly thereafter, you switch characters and are forced to return the favour, for you are the man in the hat. Still buzzing after coming to terms with your new grim reality, and the prologue ends and you awaken once again and your true journey begins. The first thing you'll undoubtedly notice is that Darkwood is a gorgeous looking game. It's implied that the story takes place in the late 80s, meaning that pixelated visuals and the sepia-infused colour palette actually gives this a really cool dated look, like something from an old movie, which also allows for the blood to be that much more striking when it's splattered across the screen. Most of the core graphics, such as the protagonist, the enemies, and the backdrop in general, sit on beautifully constructed 2D layers. The surrounding titular forest has this 3D effect on the trees which causes them to stretch into the sky and provides an unnerving claustrophobic sensation when you pass through them. But that's really where the 3D aspect ends. Instead, the treetops and other items that tower above you rely on a combination of focal blur and parallaxing to simulate height, and this all merges seamlessly to create an all-encompassing world thick with movie-like atmosphere. The forest that's blocked off your exits is slowly absorbing everything within the forest, so the roots and branches are becoming intertwined with everything they can reach. This results in some pretty disturbing imagery with human-plant hybrids that all play their part in fueling the nightmare mystery that surrounds you. Beyond the top-down visuals, we're treated to a wonderful roster of characters that range from the creepy to the downright nightmarish as you head deeper into the forest. Imagery has this dreamscape horror vibe at first, but the solid roster of interactable characters will start to quickly paint a more tangible picture as you interact with them. It's your choice to do their bidding or to take a shovel to their head, and the choices that you make will have measurable repercussions to the world around you. More often, you won't know what's changed either, and so as with most quests that feature morality, it pays to not be too much of a dick. Something I mentioned in my previous video on Subnautica is the excellent reliance on tension rather than jump scares in games, the vision to create a game rife with terror rather than periodic bouts of horror. This is how Darkwood is advertised, and although some jumps will be unavoidable due to the nature of constantly being pursued by enemies, even when you aren't under attack, the tension's been crafted with great care, and it's something you'll notice as soon as the game loads up. Health and stamina can be found in the top left of the screen. Nothing new here, but nothing wrong with that. Consumables such as bandages or surviving the night will all refill your health. Stamina dictates how much you can sprint, dodge, or swing your weapon, and wasting stamina on one will leave you unable to do the other. Attacks are quick or slow, with a heavy attack requiring classic wind-up to deal increased damage, but taking a larger chunk of stamina in the process. As a result, stamina management during combat is the name of the game, and as with most top-down games, the combat is simple to learn but hard to master, with the nuances of each enemy type defining when you stay out of range and when you step in to strike. It's quick and pretty brutal, and the frustration of getting struck often left me flustered, and sometimes that would lead to a downward spiral or get me killed. As a result, understanding the differences between different health consumables and keeping them on standby became a must, as later game requires you to have a good grip on your health management. Simple weapons can be built on the go, and more advanced weapons are made from parts that you find or buy and then crafted accordingly. These can also be maintained, meaning you need to keep an eye on item health and also plan for redundancy if your weapon health is getting low. While ranged weapons are obviously a welcome breath of fresh air in a supernatural woods full of crazies, they don't actually dissipate the tension, because while they are effective, the aiming cone means you need to draw enemies in close. Mistime it and you'll get your jaw broken. In fact, the mechanics for moving and attacking remain unchanged, with the same inherent risk of getting struck that occurs every time you stop to wind up an attack. Now, the game is split into two very distinct stages, day and night, which are cycled between continuously. When you first wake up in your cabin, you find an oven. I've got to say, this is one of the most alluring and original elements of the entire game. I absolutely love it. Look at it, this thing is just dripping in mystery. But what the hell is it? Well, all you need to know is the protagonist recognizes it as the apparatus needed to stave off the dark forces in the woods, whatever they may be. So if you find a building that has a working oven, then it's a potential base. He also insinuates that it being here means this cottage must have been one of our hideouts. The inhabitants of these woods don't need to inhale this revolting gas. So you know you're an outsider. Apparently others were with you at some point, and those who live here have somehow adapted to whatever happens at night. Other than producing a gas which keeps the base safe during the night cycle, the oven also allows you to cook with it. Your character no longer feels traditional hunger or thirst, which is creepy enough on its own, but apparently he has an odd fixation on the mushrooms found about the place, which are kind of the game's main collectible. If you find them, or animal meat, you can distill them down into this Lovecraftian syringe that provides an upgrade, and each column of power-ups is unlocked with a detrimental effect too. By pursuing these upgrades, you become not just the hunted, but also a hunter, fitting in neatly with the unpleasant world as you strike down creatures in the name of your salvation. Your base also features a generator, which needs gasoline to keep the lights running throughout the night as shadows are not safe. The gasoline that you put into the generator can also be spent on a woodcutter that transforms any wooden logs you might find into planks. Along with gasoline and metal scrap, planks are the third basic resource of the game, and as well as serving as a makeshift weapon or being used for repairs, most importantly they can be used to barricade windows. How you choose to fortify your base is entirely up to you, but spending wood to block doors and windows or metal scrap to build traps will always be much more effective than simply sliding pieces of furniture in front of the openings. Night after night, the threats will change. From home invaders who can be defeated in single combat through to supernatural beings whose weaknesses are less obvious. Being strategic about how you defend yourself when you don't know what you'll be defending against is not only challenging, but it also really keeps you on edge. Hovering next to a flickering old lampshade, weapon in hand, every sundown you'll find yourself hoping that the darkness will leave you alone this night. Anything on screen but outside your cone of vision will animate, but you won't be able to see the creature that moved it. It's a really innovative way of handling your perception radius because it means that you can be aware and ready when something enters the house, but until you're almost face to face with it, you won't know what you're about to confront. As the night ends, an uplifting serenade of strings and a whitewashed screen indicates the end of your struggles. As dawn breaks and gentle music soothes your nerves, a trader will be waiting to break bread. Dying at any time means that you lose half your items, but it also means that you'll wait to have no new credit with a trader, which is more than enough of an incentive to stay alive. Which trader you meet will depend on factors such as where you are and how far you've progressed. Now, I'm not sure about the rest of you, but I feel one of the unfulfilled mysteries of my life is who the hell the trader was in Resident Evil 4.
Got something that might interest you.
How he managed to survive that place, and why Leon just never asked him for a damn hand. While not all questions have answers, the traders in Darkwood are all NPCs who tie into the larger story, and decisions that you make can and will affect all of them in some way or other. Which, if any, are truly your friends and who can or even should be trusted will be left for you to figure out. There's no money which reinforces that trap from the outside world feel, but instead items you found can be traded to earn favour, and items they have cost favour, all of which is indicated by your reputation. Upgrading your workbench, upgrading your hotbar, upgrading your inventory, all the RPG staples are here and are rolled out at a sensible pace, forcing you to first come to terms with the simple combat mechanics before slowly upgrading your capabilities as time progresses. During the day, you need to maximize on your time because getting back before dark to begin your preparations isn't something you can afford to miss time. You get home or you get dead. As soon as you leave your house the following morning, the timer starts and you're off. You do have access to maps, but they have this really cool and innovative feature where they only indicate if you're near to a landmark, which frankly is the most realistic map system I've seen in a game. Major landmarks will always exist in the world, but the remainder is randomly generated once you start your game, and so learning your surroundings becomes a personal mission during each playthrough. While plenty of items can and will be found about the forest, the struggle here isn't so much as resources as it is time. It takes time to navigate the forest, and wandering off the path will quickly leave you disorientated. So hoarding items that you find will require a trip across the map, which is never a sure thing. Enemies are easy to avoid during the day, but most challenges will need to be dealt with eventually for the sake of progression, and so running away or around enemies isn't always the best tactic. Some encounters will leave you unscathed with the bonus of whatever you manage to loot from your enemy, but others will leave you battered and force you to use your abilities, all of which ideally you want to save for the night. Managing your inventory will likely leave you frustrated at times, but overall it's a worthwhile mechanic to keep you on your toes. Ultimately, your day will be spent exploring the forest and discovering various areas inhabited by the locals. Conversing and interacting will progress the story and provide you with objectives, prompting you to further explore the map while ultimately pursuing an exit. It might seem at first like these locations are somewhere you want to be, especially at night, but outside your cabin you'll quickly come to find that nowhere is truly safe and nobody is really your friend. For a game created by a small team, the audio ambience is really outstanding. Simple, meaty sound effects and an ominous soundtrack follow you wherever you go and play a large part in bringing the mystical world to life. Darkwood's director Artur Cordas did not only work on the story and level design, but also appeared to be the artist responsible for much of the artwork, sound design, and music as well, which is an incredible feat when you stack it all up. Most of the music is ambient-based with these ominous strings, deep synths, offbeat thumping, all helping to provide subtle changes to the atmosphere depending on what kind of vibe the game is trying to sell you at the time. From creaking floorboards to squelching organic matter. The sound effects are constant, varied, and satisfying, all of which is a testament to the level of detail in the game. To round off, I'll say this. There's a distinct Lovecraft meets Stalker vibe in this game, if indeed that means anything to you, featuring a world seeped in hopelessness, matched to a character determined to escape no matter what the cost. It would be unforgivable to shed too much light on this story. While the randomization of the map and the variety of outcomes for the various characters encourages multiple playthroughs, there is only one true ending, and what an ending it is. And although ambiguous in parts, I can tell you going in that the true ending that you're searching for is awarded to those who explore, so continue to be vigilant throughout, but I'll say no more than that. It came out of early access in 2017 and has since found itself trickling onto every platform, from Nintendo Switch through to Google Stadia, so if you want it, you can probably get it. A couple of translation errors and occasionally being unsure where to go round off the short list of frustrations I had with this game, but for the low price tag with beautifully developed visuals and sounds and a complete story that plays out like it was lifted straight from the pages of a Lovecraft novel, this is an absolute must for anybody who enjoys or is prepared to dabble in top-down games. If you got this far, then thank you so much for listening. Maybe subscribe so you can hear about some other things I have to say. Sorry for the plug, but seriously, subscribing helps so much. It changes my life. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.